Picture this. You're sitting comfortably in your living room, engrossed in your favorite TV show, when suddenly, darkness. The power has gone out. In an instant, your world is plunged into a silent abyss. The hum of the refrigerator, the soft glow of the charging indicator on your phone, the comforting whisper of the heater. All gone. It's jarring, isn't it? That sudden shift from the familiar to the unknown. A blackout is like a swift punch to your routine, leaving you dazed and disoriented. But here's the thing. Panic is not your friend. It's essential to stay calm, take a deep breath, and start assessing the situation. First, determine the extent of the blackout. Is it just your home, or has the entire neighborhood gone dark? Next, check for any obvious signs of danger, and remember, it's crucial to conserve your phone's battery. But what if this blackout isn't just a minor inconvenience? What if it's the start of a world without electricity? You may wonder, what could possibly cause such a massive power outage? Well, the causes are numerous and more common than you might think. Let's delve into a few. One of the most immediate and devastating causes could be natural disasters. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis have been known to disrupt power supplies, sometimes for extended periods. But imagine a disaster on a global scale, like a supervolcano eruption or a massive solar storm. These could potentially knock out power across entire continents. Another potential cause is a cyber attack. We live in an increasingly digital world, and our power grids are no exception. They are complex networks controlled by computer systems, and as such, they are vulnerable to hackers. A coordinated cyber attack on these systems could result in widespread blackouts. A solar flare is another plausible cause. These are massive bursts of radiation from the sun that have the power to disrupt and even destroy electrical systems. In fact, in 1859, a solar flare known as the Carrington event caused telegraph systems across Europe and North America to fail. If a similar event were to happen today, the effects on our heavily electrified world would be catastrophic. Lastly, we cannot rule out war as a cause. In times of conflict, infrastructure is often a target, and power grids are no exception. A targeted attack could result in a blackout that lasts for months, even years. These scenarios may seem like the stuff of science fiction, but they are real possibilities. We need to be prepared for them. We need to understand that our world, as we know it, is heavily dependent on electricity. Without it, we would be thrust back into a pre-industrial age. A world without power would be a world in chaos. These are not just hypotheticals. They are real threats that could plunge us into darkness. So what would life be like in such a world? Stay tuned to find out. Imagine waking up to a world where the conveniences we take for granted are gone. This is not a dream, it's a reality we're discussing. A world without electricity. Suddenly, silence descends. No hum of the fridge, no buzz of the phone, no glow of your bedside lamp. The everyday sounds and sights we barely notice until they're absent. Communication as we know it would be a memory. No internet, no cell phones, no television. We would be left with the original social network, face-to-face interaction. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? The global village would shrink to the size of your actual village, town, or city. Food preservation would become a challenge. Our refrigerators and freezers, the silent guardians of our food, would stand dormant. The clock would start ticking on perishables. We'd have to revert to age-old methods of food preservation like salting, smoking, and drying. And then there's the struggle for light and heat. Our homes, once bathed in the warm glow of electric lights, would be plunged into darkness. Nightfall would mean navigating by the soft light of candles or the inconsistent flicker of a fireplace. And speaking of fireplaces, without electricity, they and other forms of traditional heating would become our only sources of warmth. Imagine the winter months, the biting cold. Without our trusty heating systems, we would need to rely on firewood and warm clothing. Water, too, would become a precious commodity. With electric pumps out of commission, wells and water towers would run dry. We'd be left to gather water from natural sources, boiling it over open fires to ensure its safety. A world without electricity would be a world of challenges, a world that pushes us, tests us, and forces us to adapt. But here's the thing, humans are resilient. We've faced daunting challenges before and emerged stronger. It's a daunting prospect, isn't it? But survival is possible. We would learn, adapt, and rise to the occasion because that's what we do. We survive, we thrive. And in a world without electricity, we do it all over again. In this new world, the safety of your home becomes uncertain. The comforts once provided by four walls and a roof are now replaced by an unsettling feeling of vulnerability. With the loss of electricity, there's no alarm system to ward off intruders. no streetlights to deter the shadows of uncertainty. Staying at home, in familiar surroundings, might seem the most sensible option. After all, it's where you've stored your supplies and amassed your survival gear. But consider this. Your home is stationary, a fixed target for anyone seeking to plunder your resources. Without the protective arm of law enforcement, the home you once knew could quickly become the fortress you must defend. On the other hand, there's the option of seeking shelter in a community. Strength in numbers, they say. A community can pool resources, share skills, and provide a collective security that a lone homestead cannot. But joining a community also means sharing your supplies, surrendering some of your autonomy, and accepting the decisions of the collective, which may not always align with your own. There are dangers in both choices. At home, you risk becoming a target for desperate individuals. In a community, you risk conflict from within, as resources dwindle and tensions rise. And in both scenarios, you face the ever-present threat of a world that has reverted to the law of the jungle, where survival of the fittest is the new rule of law. But remember, the same spark that ignited human civilization still burns within us. Our capacity to adapt, to innovate, to persevere, can turn even the harshest environment into a place of resilience and hope. The decision to stay or to go is not one to be taken lightly. It requires careful thought, strategic planning, and a deep understanding of your own strengths and limitations. The decision is a tough one, and it could mean the difference between survival and peril. Surviving in a world without electricity requires knowledge and preparedness. Picture this. The cupboards are bare, the well is running dry, and the nights are cold. Fear not, for with a little foresight and a dash of resourcefulness, you can turn your home into a fortress of survival. Firstly, food. In an electricity-less world, forget about refrigeration. You're going to have to get creative. Canned goods are your new best friends. They're long-lasting and can be eaten straight from the can. Dried foods like rice, beans, and pasta are also excellent, requiring just a bit of water to transform into a meal. If you're lucky enough to have a garden, it's time to put those green thumbs to work. Plant vegetables, fruits, and herbs. Not only will you have fresh food, but gardening can be a great stress reliever in times of uncertainty. Speaking of water, this life-giving liquid can be harder to come by without modern plumbing. It's crucial to store as much as possible. Large, clean containers can hold rainwater, and boiling can make it safe to drink. If you're near a natural water source, that's even better. But remember, always purify before consumption. Now let's talk about light and heat. In the absence of electricity, these basic necessities become luxuries. But with a little ingenuity, you can create your own sources. Candles are straightforward and provide both light and a small amount of heat. For something more substantial, consider a wood-burning stove. Not only can it keep you warm, but it can also be used for cooking. Lastly, personal safety is paramount. Without law enforcement, the world can become a dangerous place. Keep your dwelling secure and always be aware of your surroundings. Remember, in times like these, it's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. These tips might seem daunting, but they're vital to surviving in a world without electricity. In the midst of this darkness, there is a glimmer of hope. Picture this: communities, instead of turning on each other in a time of crisis, coming together. Strangers becoming neighbors, pooling resources, sharing skills, and relying on the time-honored tradition of human cooperation. Imagine the ingenuity of the human mind, not stifled, but rather ignited by adversity. We've seen it time and again throughout history. When the chips are down, our capacity for innovation and adaptation surges. We devise solutions to problems we never thought we'd face. From finding new ways to communicate, to developing ingenious methods for food preservation and water purification, our survival instincts kick into high gear. And it's in these moments, when we're truly tested, that our humanity shines the brightest. Even in a world without electricity, the human spirit can shine bright. This may be a world without power, but it is not and never will be a world without hope.